What is the most smart-ass thing you've said to a cop without getting a ticket? Can you say your alphabet to J for me? Which one of you dudes is J? I just picked up my paycheck back in high school. Must have been 16/17 and a fairly new driver. Officer pulled me over for not pulling completely into the road going from driveway to driveway. Like I drove 10 feet on the wrong side. But there was no traffic. Officer, can you afford a ticket as a new driver? Dumbass me. I did just pick up my paycheck. It wasn't till afterwards that I thought more along the lines of having the demerit or points on my license is more than likely what he meant. Let me go with a warning. This is the stupid crap I would say and be haunted by forever. Driving through Kansas City, I got pulled over. I was wearing a Twins cap. Cop said something about being ready to give me a warning, but then he saw my cap. I said, hey, it's not like the Royals and Twins have been good at the same time. He said he's actually a Cubs fan and I couldn't stop myself from saying, oh, I'm sorry. He laughed and gave me a warning. We were in a car park just off the motorway in a Toyota MR2. Police pulled in and got out their car. One of the officers put his hand on the bonnet, hood of the MR2 and said, bonnet's a bit hot. Been ragging it, have we? I replied, funny that, mate. It's rear engine. The second officer found it hilarious. The first looked incredibly embarrassed. Funny aside, the MR2 is named differently in France, cause MR2 sounds like it's crappy in French. Toyota est Murdoch's. I was waiting to buy something at a store, but there was no one behind the cash register. There was already a lady in line in front of me who seemed to have been waiting for a while. We rang the little bell a couple of times, but no one appeared. After waiting some time, I joked we should just steal this stuff. That will get their attention. The lady in front of me responded by showing me her dry cleaning bag, full of police uniforms. So I said the first thing that came to mind, you have to get your uniforms dry cleaned? Does that get expensive? And we ended up having a cheerful conversation about dress codes and employee perks and the laundry facilities in different neighborhood apartment buildings and the turnaround time of different neighborhood dry cleaners until the cashier finally showed up. Got pulled over on my motorcycle. Cop, do you know why I pulled you over? Me. Cause I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. He got a chuckle and I only got a warning. Next cop didn't find it nearly as amusing. Have a friend who had a bike that actually got ticketed for not wearing a seatbelt while riding. He of course fought the ticket in court and it was dismissed. Butthole cop just wanted to waste my friend's time, I guess. Cop, were you eating an apple while driving? Me. Can't I eat while I drive? Cop, no. Me. But I can smoke. Cop, yes. Me. Then I was smoking the apple. I once pulled myself over after I blew through a red light. Since there was a cop right there, I was a new driver, saw him, and freaked out. He asked me why he shouldn't write me a ticket, and I told him I really don't want you to. Got off with a warning. I work nights, so the cops will occasionally cruise through our parking lot in the middle of nowhere and just check things out. I was outside on my break smoking and playing Jetpack Joyride when they lowered their window. What are you doing here at this time of night? My freaking job. What are you doing here at this time of night? Double quote. Our freaking jobs. Have a nice night. You too. Montreal cops are nice, despite their silly pants. He asked me if I had a dead body in my backseat. I said, oh, totally. You wanna meet him? He's kinda shy. He laughed. Told his partner he said totally. Took my license. Sat in their car for a minute. Then drove up next to me. Handed me my cards from their window. And drove off. I later realized that a coat and hat were on top of a mess in my backseat and actually could have looked like a dead body. That's a trick they use. If you laugh you probably don't have anything to hide. But if you say no sternly then they'd probably search the car. Cop pulled me and my friend over when we were both 17. Pretty sure he just saw a couple of teens in a car late at night and figured we were up to no good. That being said, we had a lot of weed in the car, in a bag. Cop comes over and is like, so you have anything illegal in the car? Just my good looks, I reply. Cop laughs and lets us leave. My heart just about gave out, it was beating so fast. Either you follow rules 1 and 2, or you are ugly and he felt sorry for you. He told me how much over the limit I was going and I said, well, you looked bored sitting there, so I figured I'd give you something to do. Laughed and let me off the whole thing with a warning. I said something similar to a doctor before he put staples in my head. He did not let me off with a warning. I was flying back from Europe once. At the Brussels airport I bought a jar of mustard in duty free. They sealed it in the special bag, put it in my carry-on, get it through customs no problem, bringing it back through TSA in the US. At a major international airport it gets confiscated. It is in a sealed jar, in a sealed bag, having clearly been bought at an airport and just brought through an international border. TSA guy confiscates it, told him to keep saving the country one jar of mustard at a time. In college once thanked a cop for not being a dickhead about it. You know, like most officers are after getting ticketed. He wrote it all down and the judge repeated that to me when I fought the ticket in court. She was clearly amused and I got out of the ticket. Yeah, don't ever swear in front of a cop. They'll travel through heaven and heck to make sure every expletive you say gets on the report. This didn't get me out of a ticket but it gave the cop a pretty good laugh. He asked why I was going 52 in a 35 and I told him general lack of awareness. Years ago, during a heavy drug-fueled bender at a London festival, I walked up to some policemen and said, "Guess what I'm on?" They smirked and told me to move on. Please don't make us do more paperwork. Friend got pulled over doing about 20 over. We were college kids at the time. Officer walks over to the window, does his normal "do you know why I pulled you over" routine and then turns to me when it's all done and asks, "So should I give your friend here a ticket?" With a smile I said, "Yes sir, he most likely deserves it." Cop laughed, smiled and walked away. My birthday 3 years ago, I was crossing the street to my car and suddenly 2 squad cars pulled up, each with 2 officers in them for some reason. As I was unlocking my car, all 4 got out of their cars and approached me. One of them asked me to please stop and walk over to them. I did. Then he asked if I knew why they were stopping me, to which I replied, "I'm assuming you are strippers." "Excuse me?" "Yes, you must be strippers. It's my birthday and 4 suspiciously good-looking police officers just stopped me for absolutely no reason." 3 laughed, 1 did not. I then had to wait for 10 minutes while he wrote me a warning for jaywalking. When I was a kid, my parents had one of those Oldsmobile silhouette minivans with the long nose. I was driving it and I accelerated to get through a yellow light before it turned red. That's when the cop turned on the lights. When he got to the window he asked, "Do you know what a yellow light means, son?" I said, "That means it's gonna turn red soon." He said, "No, it means clear the intersection." I told him, "Officer, with the size of this vehicle and at the rate I was moving, had anything entered the intersection, I'd have cleared it right out, I promise." He laughed and told me that since I'd caught him off guard and made him laugh, he would let me off with a warning. Me and 3 friends made a big cranberry vodka in a liter cranberry bottle and were walking toward a bar in Manhattan passing it around. One friend was holding it when a cop slowly pulled up to us. I was the one closest to his window and he waved me over and asks me, "Why is your friend holding a bottle of cranberry juice?" It was pretty obvious it wasn't just cranberry on a Friday night in the East Village. I said he's on his period. The cop laughed and made us dump it. My brother and I, both underage, both very drunk, walking home with a dozen donuts and the remains of a 6-pack when the cops saw us mostly stumbling along the main road. They pulled around behind us and scared the pants off us with the siren. One cop got out of the car and asked us where we were going. We offered him our donuts. He took our beer. Joke was on him. It was Bud Light. They left us to continue our own way home. Don't think we'd get away with that today. I honestly don't understand the rules with public intoxication. I feel like you shouldn't be punishable unless you're actually disrupting people. But what do I know? I worked at the NCO club on an AF base as a teenager. I was a cook sometimes and a dishwasher. I blew through a stop sign and was speeding. Apparently I was being lit up and chased and didn't realize it until I saw the gate closing as I was trying to get off base. The security forces, AFMP, asked me a bunch of questions about it and I told him I wasn't paying attention due to my eating cheesy fries I made sitting in the passenger seat. Then I asked, "Do you want some?" He stared at me for a second and told me to leave. Yelling at a cop for calling me Jack Sparrow instead of Captain Jack Sparrow, whilst heavily intoxicated and dressed as Captain Jack Sparrow. When I was 18, A friend of mine and I stepped out of a restaurant to have a cigarette. We were in the parking lot smoking when a cop pulls up. We weren't doing anything illegal, so we kept doing what we were doing. He walks up to us and asks what we were doing. We tell him, but he doesn't believe us because there were reports of cars getting broken into, which I doubt. He decides to search us. We should have resisted but didn't know any better at the time. He pulls a brown paper bag out of my friend's pocket, and with a smirk on his face, he asks, "What am I going to find in here?" My friend is straight faces and says, "It's the Emancipation Proclamation," to which the cop gives a "yeah right" face. Turns out it actually was a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation. He had been to the History Museum that day and got a tiny copy as a souvenir. The cop didn't say anything, just handed back the bag and got in his car. Thanks to you, I will now forever carry a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation in a brown paper bag in my pocket. Thank you for this. Did you see the speed limit sign? Yes I just didn't see you sitting behind it. I'll never forget how hard he scrunched his face up trying not to laugh. Was exiting the beer tent at a local summer festival. There was 2 county sheriffs guarding the entrance exit at the time. Drunk me walks up to one and say to protect and serve, right? He replies, yes Again, drunk me says, well you can serve me by protecting this beer. I'll be right back. Then I set the beer on the ground near his feet while I went to use the Porta John bathroom. I came back and my beer was still there, untouched. Officer did his job. Pulled over for quickly accelerating after a traffic light. When the cop asked why, I said it was to try to get away from the asshole with their brights on. He then turned to see he still had his brights on, and said have a safe drive home. When I was 20 I worked at a video store. This one night we had to do inventory which we started at midnight and I helped out until 3 AM. But I was the opener so I left. I was on my way home when I was pulled over. My tail light was out. I didn't know. The cop left me off with a warning but it took 15 minutes for him to run my stuff. 2 miles down the same road but in a different town, I was pulled over by a cop from that town. My tail light was out. I didn't know. The cop left me off with a warning, but took almost 20 minutes to do so. 5 more miles down the road and yet another town over I was pulled over again. It is now 4 AM. My tail light is out. I didn't know. I'm left off with a warning. I make it home at 4:45 AM. I have work at 9 AM. I got to sleep. I wake up, skipping a much needed shower and leave for work. I get pulled over about a mile away from my job. Officer, do you know why I pulled you over? Me. Yep. My tail light is out. Officer, if you know why haven't you fixed it? Me. Well officer, I left work 6 hours ago. I was pulled over 3 times in an hour and a half, and each time I was told that my tail light is out. In the 4 hours since I got home, went to bed and woke up to go back to work, I haven't had time to fix it. Officer, 3 times? Me. Yup. So if you're gonna give me the ticket, give me the ticket, otherwise I'm assuming that you and your fellow officers just want me to be late to things. I was let off with a warning. Driving a 1990 Mercury Sable, dented and miscolored. Do you have any large denominations of US currency with you? Was it the flashy car that tipped you off? Double quote. This is girl Pepe. She only appears once in every 50,000 memes, like in 3 seconds for good luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.